Hey, it's Dave Marks, the Spyguy, who's still suffering through this cold. I have no idea when it's ending. It always feels like I am getting better. Like I'm not blowing my nose constantly or having like a sore throat, but you can still hear it in my voice, and it's just sort of like annoying that yes, this is happening yet again. Yesterday I was supposed to do some reactions like I'm doing right now, but I just didn't have, every time I turn on the channel, it seems I get a less subscriber than before. So kind of gets frustrating. But I know that the key to doing this is to keep doing this. So I guess I'll keep doing this. What do we have here? So I was going to Redacted once again is something I like to watch. They had a good 2-hour show yesterday. They got into some things they were talking about. Let me see here, share screen. Sorry, share the screen here. Yeah, they were interviewing a former CIA agent who has some stuff to say about Venezuela, and they also talk a bit about directed energy weapons causing people to go sick. So that'll be something as well. Yeah, I have an inside scoop on why they're going into Venezuela. It's even dumber than what this is. At least going after the gold and the oil, it makes sense. Well, let's start watching this and see how it goes from there.
How deeply involved the CIA is inside of the regime change operation in Venezuela, as we've reported here on this show. And new reports this week suggest that the CIA and special forces failed in a recent mission to kill or capture Nicolas Maduro. A friend of the show, Colonel Douglas McGregor, you recall yesterday on the show, said if those reports are true, then that is damning. Because first of all, that those reports would even be out there is damning.
It is pretty damning.
In plain sight, the CIA is.
That being said, how much of that is whistleblowers trying to undermine the Trump administration? Not that they don't need to be undermined sometimes.
Operating inside of Venezuela. Our next guest is a CIA whistleblower whose family was targeted by the U.S. government with directed energy weapons. He's written a book called Twilight of the Shadow Government, How Transparency Will Kill the Deep State. That author is Kevin Shipp, former CIA officer, and the USA went after him. Kevin, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
He's on mute.
Well, it looks like you're muted, unless it's on our side.
Did we mute him, guys? Or is that him?
Is that on his side or our side?
He's not muted on our side.
Okay. Might be on your side, Kevin. Okay.
Back?
Yep. There you are.
There we are.
Good. Okay.
Great to have you here on the show, Kevin. Thank you so much. And so I want to get your take, first of all, just before we dive into more details about this, about the CIA Special Forces reports out of Venezuela over the past 48 hours, trying to target, either capture or kill Nicolas Maduro. President Trump, when asked about it yesterday, Nicolas Maduro saying, oh, he will leave. He will leave.
Yeah. Unlike Saddam totally left. But what is it? I was going to say special forces. I was just saying it was undermining that, or maybe it's just a psyop to screw with Maduro himself. You could make him all paranoid and such.
Unequivocally, he will leave. So it's not a surprise the CIA operating there, is it to you, Kevin?
CIA has been involved in Venezuela going all the way back to the cartel called the Cartel of the Sun, which is run by a general who was a proxy of the CIA, who had gone in there and helped reconstitute his entire intelligence service with the goal of penetrating the entire.
The Cartel of the Sun. Who are they? The Sun. Sons, not Sun. (1993) as a journalist. Okay, we're just giving you what the CIA wants to know. This is Wikipedia. Oh, or Cartel de los Soles, which is BBC, which is what MI6 wants to tell us. And you can go to the government of the state and cite crime. Venezuela. Let's see what they say here. And I'll share them. Stop screen. And that's my link. Hey, how's it going out there? Thank you, Joel J. Heil Rupees. Thank you. Thanks, son. Anyways, what I was going to do is I'm going to share the other link. Yeah. Here we are, Cartel of the Suns. And what do we have here? The term used to describe groups within Venezuela's armed forces implicated in a wide range of criminal activities. Oh yeah, the armed forces. I did a piece on the Venezuelan army about nearly 10 years ago for Modern War magazine, and what I learned about that is that basically Venezuela, the party of Chavez, runs everything. So he's cronying up all the oil companies, and they're running all the state, made them in state industries. They get paid out of it, but because they chased all the people who actually knew how to do the job out, they're made a real mess of things. It's a elusive network of cells within the Army, Navy, Air Force, and National Guard. Spanning from the lowest to highest ranks, these groups operate essentially as drug trafficking organizations. Allegations that GND soldiers collaborated with drug traffickers date back to the 90s, when officers were accused of taking bribes to allow traffickers and their shipments to pass. The phrase came into being when two GNB, the National Guard, anti-narcotics chief Ramon Davila and his successor Orlando Villegas were investigated for drug trafficking related crimes. As brigade commanders each wore a single sun insignia on their epaulets, giving rise to the phrase Cartel of the Suns. When division commanders who bore double suns were later accused of trafficking. Yeah, so it's all about the name ranks on the epaulets. By the mid-2000s, elements of the GNB and other branches moved beyond extorting traffickers to directly buying, storing, and distributing cocaine. One theory is that Colombian traffickers began paying Venezuelan officers with drugs instead of cash. Yeah, that's usually how that works. Forcing them to develop their own markets. Three major developments contributed to the rise of the organized crime in Venezuela during this period. First, Colombia's multi-billionaire Plan Colombia, signed with the United States, allowed Colombian forces to intensify operations against guerrilla groups such as FARC and the ELN. You guys can read these things yourself later. Increased military pressure pushed the guerrillas to shift their operations into Venezuela's poorly policed border state. Second, in 2002, the collapse of peace talks between the FARC and the Colombian president Andres Pastrana deprived the rebels of a large safe haven in southern Colombia, forcing them to seek new refuges. And then third, the attempted coup that year briefly ousted President Hugo Chavez, diverting attention to punishing coup supporters and fighting political battles, such as the 2002 to 2003 oil strike. This led to Chavez narrowing his circle of trusted allies, awarding influential posts and lucrative contracts to loyal military officers. I was just talking about that. The government adopted a Praetorian model with active and retired officers taking senior roles across state institutions, what led to the saying. And of course, they were corrupted by the drug trade. Well, they were corrupted already by politics, then drug trade. It returned to the public eye in 2004 when journalist and city councilwoman Mauro Marcano accused senior GNB officials, including intelligence chief Alexis Minero, of drug ties. Marcano was murdered later that year. The case suggested systemic corruption within the GNB, but the government made only weak efforts to investigate. No case was opened against Minero, who was simply reassigned. That same year, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy estimated that about 50 tons of cocaine transited Venezuela, and then it went up to 250 by 2007. Cases of military involvement in trafficking also drew scrutiny in 2004. Several GNB and was planted drugs on 3 airline passengers, including U.S. citizen at Caracas International Airport. Others were arrested in a separate case after being caught loading cocaine onto a private plane in Malquisha Airport. Now, Simon Bolivar International Airport. Well, at least they got something right. That's a good person to be named after. I once listened to a podcast all about Bolivar, and was pretty fascinating stuff. How he wanted to make a United States of South America. Nobody else wanted to do that. 2005, Chavez accused the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency of espionage, halting U.S.-backed anti-drug initiatives, including plans to modernize inspection technology at Puerto Cabello, a key port for cocaine exports. Wow, there's a lot here. Criminal activities, leadership, geography, allies, and enemies. One thing I can tell you is that I really don't think China or Russia would really want Maduro to fall, because they had extensive arms contracts, which is what I discovered when I did my report back for Modern War. And the amount of money that was the Venezuelans owed those two was one of the reasons why, when they tried to replace Maduro with Juan Guaido, a battalion of Wagner soldiers showed up and made sure that problem went away. So they were not. Now, the Russians may be busy elsewhere, but I would be surprised if they don't send troops in to help Maduro, but maybe they're overextended with stuff going on in Africa and other places, or they just, it's one thing to put down a coup attempt by CIA-sponsored rebels. It's another thing to put your troops directly against 15,000 Marines and sailors. So my problem is like, just looking at that big fight down there, it's just like, you don't have enough guys to take the entire country, so why are you doing this? Now, there is a story, supposedly Hezbollah has made some sort of training deal with Maduro off an island off the coast of Venezuela, and that would be enough firepower to take that out in some sort of Grenada-style operation. And it would support Israel and give them their little win there, knocking over some guys. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Of course, and then there's all these cases against people, but yeah, Maduro can always fly to Russia, and they'll save him. Anyways, there's some of the stuff there, and then we'll get back to the show. Yes, it is deep in our programming delirium. So many rabbit holes. Just stay happy for making others happy. Then, if I meet furry face friends do, I guess I'll listen now. It sounds fairly instructive. Thank you. I'll put the rest on and go back to sharing the other screen. And yeah, like I said, I have plans for more. Grow this channel, but I want to have some content for when people come and discover it, when I do initiate and bring on some important people. And people will share me across their streams, but I want to have like 50 to 100 episodes of various things in the can so people can go back and watch. Anyways, there's
the Venezuelan government. And it turns out that the General Ramon Gulen was his name, was running narcotics the entire time, and was the creator and the runner of the Cartel of the Sun. Now, the Cartel of the Sun is what the Trump administration is using as a pretext to go in and stage attacks, first on these boats and then actually in Venezuela itself. And of course, with its long history of doing this, the CIA was behind the Secret Service and the general in creating the drug trade and some of the secret dealings back then, and the eventual creation of the Cartel of the Sun. And the Trump administration is using the Cartel of the Sun as a pretext, because that way he can go around Congress and stage covert operational attacks and assassinations within Venezuela, and also including these drug boats, which sadly resulted in the survival of two of the members of the drug boats who eventually were terminated after that, which is a real.
Yeah, that's all been debunked. So some people need to get more of their information updated. But yeah, that being saying that they were apparently radioing in backup. So that reporting has been pretty much debunked by now. But I guess it takes a while for people to get their news straight, or maybe he's running it up. Who knows?
Problem.
Now, Congress tried to understand the CIA's role in the late 90s and in the late 80s and the 90s, in fact, John Kerry was one who tried to figure this out. The CIA redacted a lot of information and tried to hide it from Congress. And so now the Trump administration is sort of presenting this as a right versus left type thing. In fact, just now Caroline Leavitt is saying, well, it's liberals who are siding with the drug traffickers. It's not as, it's an unnecessary binary that they're using to distract us from the fact that we actually have been trying to get to the bottom of this for a long time, right?
You're right, Natalie. They always do that. They always pit the right against the left, and sometimes, frankly, it's like they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Just to avoid the fact that apparently Donald Trump now has either been aggrandized with the CIA or has been manipulated by it to go down once again, as they have done throughout their history and never learned, to start and engage in a coup to take down the leader of the Venezuelan government. And as always with the CIA, if you go through every single coup attempt it's done, it's about the oil and it's about the minerals. And Venezuela is replete with oil and gold and things that the United States wants. And that's the CIA's version of national security, is gaining oil, minerals, and gold from other countries for the survival of the United States. That's what's going on here.
Wish that was what was going on here, but apparently Trump administration really does believe in this, according to my sources, that it's all about the election machine hacking and rigging, and that has happened in places. But it doesn't make any sense for those of us who actually know how to do elections. That's not how. You can't just switch ballots, electronic numbers. We have the ballots, we can recount them, right? So, but a lot of people, and especially in the deep state or former members, believe it's happening. But it's like, that's not how elections work. I've been in elections.
The pretext of attacking the cartel of the sun, which going all the way back, as usual, the CIA was involved in the creation of that, the general who was running that, and he was running drugs at the time. So here we go again. The CIA never learns, mistake after mistake after mistake. And here we are on the verge of war that Trump is allowing and engaging in. And this is very concerning. And he's found a pretext to go around Congress to do it.
So do you think the CIA is manipulating President Trump? Because I don't like how the MAGA influencers out there treat Trump like he's like a little baby, a toddler. Like he's just, he just doesn't know. He's just being controlled from all angles. And he has no sort of, The
revolutionaries said the same thing about the king, right? In the lead up to the revolution. It's not the king's fault. It's the king's bad advisors. Trump, I think, should have some idea what he's up to. But he does. The president is a very isolating job. And you have to choose your people wisely, and maybe those people ran your election campaign, but they're not the people who should be running your office or your staff. You need, just because he has some bad people around him like Susie Wiles and the ATG, who are both working who have been sending a lot of money to their in order to get access to Trump. You have to go to their former lobby firm and give money to that guy. And then Susie Wiles says, oh, well, now I can schedule you for her presidential meeting. Yeah, if you lose to Congress in 2 more years or in another year, how's that going to play? Everyone knows the sharks are already circling.
He has no decision-making abilities on his own. So do you believe the CIA has somehow manipulated him in a way that he's unaware of, or he's going along with it?
CIA has done this to every president that I've studied since I was a CIA officer, and they will come in and they'll say, look, sir, let me show you what you don't know. And they have pre-prepared briefings that show the president that if you don't take the action that we're recommending, it's going to be a serious breach to either national or international security. So you have to do this. That's the one thing, kind of a mild blackmail. And secondly, they'll come into the president, and I think especially with Donald Trump, this could be the case. Sir, you're the greatest president, the biggest supporter the CIA has ever had. We're so glad you're with us. We think this is an operation that will make you great in terms of countering the narco.
And it's all Rubio stoners, from what I hear. All these rich guys down in Miami, many of them from certain many whose ancestor came from a certain island off the coast are really pushing for this.
Trafficking industry. And this is an operation I think that we should go with. And as the president, it'll put you at the top of stopping narco trafficking. So it would be in your best interest politically to do this. So that's how the CIA does it. They've done it with every president, going all the way back to President Reagan. I know this. I know the briefers. This is what the CIA does. I had hopes that Trump would do what Bobby Kennedy Jr. and I have been calling for and discussing quite a bit, and that's a reformation of the CIA. I don't think that's going to happen now based on this. I don't think the CIA will ever be reformed under the Trump administration, and as sad as that is.
Now, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State.
And the fact that he's also national security advisor is a big problem. I think you shouldn't have one person being there. You should have the rivalry so that you got the national security advisor versus the Secretary of State. That would be the best thing. But hey, this is what's happening.
Is saying, oh no, but Venezuela, they're run through Iran. They've got Hezbollah there without any real proof, sort of ignoring the history of that. It was us. It was the CIA that ran that Iran narco corridor. So does it seem to you, is there any proof that Iran or Hezbollah, which only exists in Lebanon to protect the Palestinians and the Lebanese, what would their interest be there? Is there somewhere we need to look to see that for proof? Because the government's not giving us any.
It's not there. There is none. As a matter of fact, Venezuela, with its natural resources, the gold and the oil, doesn't need the drug trade to survive for its economy at all. And the Cartel of the Sun is kind of an under-corruption complex part of the Venezuelan secret intelligence and services and part of that lower part of government. And Maduro is not running it. He's not complicit in it, which they're trying to make it look like. No, there's no Iran footprint there at all. If anything, there's a CIA footprint that goes way back to the Cartel of the Sun. There's CIA officers, boots on the ground in Venezuela now. They've been there for some time. They've been there going all the way back to the Cartel of the Sun. And so this is another, by everything that we can tell so far about what we've found, it's another CIA coup, every one of which has backfired. And they want to go in there and they want to take the government over and they want to take the gold and the oil. That sounds simplistic, but if you go back to every single CIA coup, going all the way back to Iran, which the CIA did, responsible for the overturning of that government, this is their MO. It's their MO because it's who they are. It's what they've always done. And I have to say, too, many times these operations are done without the knowledge or behind the back of the CIA director, him or herself. Which usually are political appointees. And I remember the scuttlebutt talk inside that, well, they'll be here 4 years, so let's just kind of work around them. Both Director Woolsey, who I served under, and also Mike Pompeo, both came out and said that they knew the CIA was engaging in operations that.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Oh. Well, why would you tell the guys at the top every little thing? But seriously.
They didn't even know about. So this is the CIA that I and others have been calling to be reformed. It is running many of its own classified programs, even without the knowledge of its own director.
Maybe you can help explain, Kevin, your deep knowledge of this. We interviewed Jordan Godreau on the show a few maybe months ago before he went missing, unfortunately. From our understanding, he's safe, but he is, he's now wanted. For exposing the truth of what happened in the first Trump administration with Venezuela. He explained that he was brought into the White House as a member of the Special Forces, a Green Beret, to lead an operation for regime change in Venezuela, with a lot of his Special Forces troops who moved on this. They were then blocked by the CIA, and a number of his men died. So the CIA got in the way of what the White House was trying to do. A lot of these special forces were killed. That was then, this is now. What do you think the difference is here between what?
There's an interesting note there, because at a certain point, I remember reading a book on Vietnamese special operations. And at one point, the CIA was just basically kicked out of Vietnam, or at least for the special operators. So there's no love lost between those two groups. But the CIA was told, nope, no more. You don't get to do certain types of operations anymore. We're going to give it to MACD command and make that happen. So I'll cover some of that stuff in the future.
The CIA did before and what they're doing now.
Well, obviously, there was a conflict between those two forces. The CIA had its own agenda in overtaking that country and continuing to allow the drug trade to go on. And the CIA, as you guys know as well as anybody, has been involved in traveling, trading in drugs, going all the way back to Laos and the Golden Triangle, all the way up to Iran-Contra. The CIA has allowed.
There's a theory that Dien Bien Phu happened by the French because they were trying to secure the opium trade, and they were worried that the North Vietnamese would take out the crop that year, and that's why they set up at a really stupid location. That airbase out there in a really dumb location where all the hills were occupied by the North Vietnamese. Oh, wow.
Allowed running of drugs for the excuse of either communism or now narco-terrorism. And they've also been linked to the torture and killing of Kiki Camarena, who was about to blow the whistle on the CIA's drug running in Nicaragua. So you've got the CIA and its dark operations coming against perhaps some special spec ops guys that were going in there for a different reason, and then the CIA could not control them, and of course sparks are going to fly there.
Can I ask you, just as a follow-up on that, and then what's going on inside the Trump administration? Earlier, we were reporting on some of these new reports that are coming out that there's really a deep state coup trying to take out Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War. And, you know, again, this report's coming from like Laura Loomer and others. So what do you make of these reports? Is there any truth to that, or do you see this as more propaganda?
I don't think it's anything really concrete. I think it's a coup amongst the workforce. I know that many in the Pentagon are extremely upset with Pete Hegseth and how he's running the place, since he commanded all the generals to come back and watch him trot around on the stage and try to teach them how to do their business and how to lose weight. So you go with the Pentagon with these war-hardened generals and troops, and you've got Hegseth come in, which really doesn't have the level of expertise, in my opinion, to do this. And they're really upset about it. They want to get rid of him. There's no question about that. I don't know if you'd call that a coup. I'd say it's a coup in morale inside the Pentagon. Now Hegseth's got some real problems, because if indeed they did kill those two survivors in that drug boat that they bombed without any hard evidence that we've seen.
Yeah, like I said, I was already talking about how that kind of got debunked. And all these people really say, oh, well, this is a lot of trouble. Really? Obama drone striked American citizens in the Middle East using authorized use of military force from the 2000, shortly after which has been used by the Americans ever since to basically do whatever the hell they want. So I don't see that this is anywhere different than the AMF doing that to Venezuelans. They're on the open sea. We could claim they're pirates. We have a lot of stuff. All these bleeding hearts that kind of come along and like, oh, well, these guys are in trouble for this. I'm like, oh, give me a break. I don't see you guys. Well, these guys would complain about that. But it's just like, look, Obama ran a completely illegal drone program in northern Pakistan with the help of Pakistanis. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that happened. All this hand wringing by so many people who are in the pro-Gaza space. It's just ridiculous. Don't give me that crap. I'm not necessarily saying so, but like, you really want to, Congress should just issue letters of marque to people who've been killed by the fentanyl crisis and let them go out and kill these people.
By the way, then we've got an international war crime on our hands. And Hegseth
It is not a war crime.
When asked to explain, said, well, things happen in the fog of war. Well, we all know that when you have to use the term fog of war, you're covering up some kind of criminal activity and making an excuse for why that happened. So I think it's a coup of morale that's going on within the CIA. It is so compartmented. Ratcliffe, bless his heart, I think he was a good choice. But once again, I don't think he's going to be able to make any changes. He fired 1,200 employees involved in DEI, which is a good move. But that's it. That was a window dressing. As far as a coup inside the CIA, I don't have any hard evidence of that. I haven't even heard rumors of that. I think the opposite may be possible, that inside the CIA, hey, here's a president that's going to let us operate again and go in and do a coup, and we'll get more funding again because of this, which is the goal, and more than anything else, will satisfy the CIA's ultimate national security goal, their version of oil, gold, for the strength of the United States.
Now, something I learned from the research of Alfred McCoy was that the CIA used U.S. aid in the drug trade. It was very much a tit for tat. Here's some rice in exchange for your drugs. A lot of that's the way it happened in Asia. So might be a way to handicap the CIA, but it doesn't. That was a speed bump, right? Was I naive to think that?
If you read Twilight of the Shadow Government, which I wrote at some risk, and I wrote it in such a way that the CIA couldn't stop it for obvious reasons, they blacked out redacted things in my last book that were illegal. They shouldn't have done it, and it wasn't classified. So I saw that coming. So when I wrote Twilight of the Shadow Government, I wrote it in such a way I gave the CIA 3 months to sit on it, knowing that they were going to try to stop it. And then I went ahead and published it so that the world could see what they do, including drug trafficking and funding illegal operations using arms running and gun running that Congress didn't even know about. It's a dirty organization on the operational side. Now, 80% of CIA employees are good people, good patriotic people, just providing for their families. It's the 20% in the upper level, the coup planners and the others who do not believe, even by Pompeo's own admission, they don't believe in the U.S. Constitution. They believe in the expansion and the power of the CIA as the true savior of national security. It's a narcissistic point of view that these people hold. I was on the 7th floor during Iran-Contra on William Casey's detail. I've seen that firsthand. The CIA has got to be reformed, but the only way it's going to happen, as I've said on many interviews, is the American people rise up and demand that their congressmen and senators order reform of the CIA and more hearings. And if the congressmen and senators, many who are in the pocket of the CIA, if they don't, vote them out.
Clayton.
There's another way of doing it, but there was a movie I've seen a few times over the years, and it was it's basically set in what looks to be a South American country, and they have a coup plot against the secret police, and it doesn't exactly work out for many of the coup plotters' plans, but they did go in and kill all the secret police. It was a moment.
And I are just dueling orders. Like, why haven't we read this book?
Yeah, no, we're literally buying your book as we speak.
As you're speaking.
Kevin, I'd love to have you back for a deep dive because, I mean, maybe you can just kind of briefly tell our audience here your experience and when you were targeted with directed energy weapons or energy weapons by the CIA, the government coming after you specifically. For people who are out there who are like, the directed energy weapons don't exist. What say you?
Very quickly, I uncovered a vulnerability in embassies overseas where any foreign intelligence agent could go in and identify our covert CIA case officers and by extension their assets. And I wrote a report and published that to CIA management, and they blocked the report. They deleted it from the server. They called and threatened me and told me to drop it, destroyed all the documents, until the Department of State got hold of my report and went out and did a secret investigation with me involved without the CIA knowing about it, and came out and did a report published to the entire intelligence community that the CIA had allowed this vulnerability to be there on purpose, put the lives of our case officers at risk. Anybody in the visa section could go in and identify who they were. And the CIA was rebuked publicly. It was put in a report to the entire intelligence community with my name on it. So I knew that after that, I had a bit of a laser dot on my back. They posted me to a secret base in the Midwest of the United States. My family became immediately ill. My wife was bleeding from her gums, bruising all over. My son's immune system was so bad they thought I was AIDS, and we tested it, and it wasn't.
Jesus.
He has never been the same since. They went after him mentally, dramatically. He had a dramatic change in personality, and frankly, right now, I mean, we're praying for him. We're not exactly sure where he is. We know he's still alive, but he took me aside one day and he said, "Dad, they're trying to kill me."
Oh.
And I know for a fact that Joey was on the base where I was, where the CIA had buried a lot of skeletons that they were afraid of Congress finding out. That's why they went after me initially, that in the report. Well, Joey had snuck out at night and gone into some of their facilities without them knowing about it and seen some of the things. So they went after him with a vengeance. They ran him up, they tailed him, ran him off the road. And then he had a dramatic personality change, was diagnosed with clinical PTSD. He was a normal kid. He wanted to grow up like his dad and be a cop or a federal agent someday. And now he has a completely different personality. So did I see a directed energy weapon hit my son or my family? No, but the symptoms are there. And you have to ask yourself, why did the CIA know directed energy weapons existed in the first place? When they came out and said, well, this may be what they're experiencing in these embassies. Well, how did you know that even existed? In any event, something was done to my oldest son, and it was something to that effect. I don't go out there publicly and say my son was hit with a directed energy weapon, because I'm an evidence guy, as a former analyst and intelligence collector. But they did something to him, and they hit him with.
It might not be a directed energy weapon. It could have been poisoning. It could have been like some other psychological trickery. It doesn't necessarily have to be a directed energy weapon. I always kind of wonder about that, because directed energy weapons are usually supposed to be lasers or fusion weapons or something like that, science fiction stuff. Now, there's this weird crowd control weapons that they're using audible stuff. And we know from the windmills that they can really screw around with acoustics. So I'm wondering if it's less of a direct energy weapon as more as an acoustic weapon. And they're using that as, like I said, part of the PSYOP of like misinformation. These guys used to be able to keep it all covered up and under wraps and then as secrets. But now what they do instead is they just flood the zone with so much misinformation that you have to figure out what truth is your truth. My personal truth is really there's a bunch of rich people and they want to stay rich. And they use the intelligence agencies and various groups to basically keep themselves on top and not try to keep other people from getting into the club. That's kind of my theory. I'm not like, you could go way down the things like, yes, do I think the WEF wants to do this? Yes. Why? Because they write books about it and they have a website.
Something. And we'll just leave it at that. Now, as a father, to see them do that to your son, of course, that explains some of my commitment and lack of fear about what the CIA is going to do or try to do to silence me, in that they need to be reformed, broken apart, because there are whistleblowers people don't even know about, CIA whistleblowers that have been destroyed and eliminated. And the CIA uses the power of secrecy. And in one chapter of my last book before Twilight of the Shadow Government, I call it the tyranny of secrecy. The CIA rules by secrecy. It rules Congress. It rules the president. In the Epstein case, with the intelligence connection with Israel and the CIA, if any of that, and I'm sure it is classified, we'll never see it. It'll never see the light of day because the CIA has classified it and buried away, and not even Congress or the Gang of Eight can see it. So it is time for their reform, but it's going to be up to the American people to do that.
Horrible story, Kevin. Thank you for your bravery and sharing it with us. Like I said, I'd love to have you back on the show and we can spend more than an hour or so and just really deep diving all of your.
Yep. Yeah, that would be a good thing. So there you have it. Redacted. Close that down. Yep. Okay. Well, that was the end of the stream. Thanks for both people who are watching this. And if you like what you see and you want to hear more of my commentary and talking about stuff like this, be sure to hit the like, share, subscribe, or even join the locals. And then I'll always start using it again. Yeah. So till then, I have some places I got to be. Bye-bye.